Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Managing Marketing Risk in Agritourism Ventures. Today we're going to talk about how important it is to have a risk management plan for marketing your agritourism venture. And I did want to mention again that this material and work is supported by USDA NIFA under the award number that you see on your screen. And it's part of the Northeast Extension Risk Management Education programs that are offered around the country. It's also supported by USDA and Cornell Cooperative Extension. So today's agenda is basically some slides. Then I've asked Carla Krim to join us to talk about some of her personal experiences in social media marketing. I would like to remind you that in your notebooks to keep filling out the risk management plans that you have for agritourism based on what you're learning. And there will be time at the end of the session today to continue work. It's a nice day in the Northeast, so I don't think we're going to get a lot of takers today, but hopefully they can watch it later on. So let's get started and talk a little bit about managing marketing risk in agritourism ventures. So what is marketing? Marketing is the process of determining what customers want and of using that information to produce and sell a good or service to satisfy that want. Marketing includes identification of your customer base, a clear description of the goods and services and experiences offered, and advertising and promotion of your agritourism business. So it's not just products. Of course, in agritourism, we've got goods and services, we have experiences, and this is what people are coming to your farm to see and do. So is marketing simple? I think it's probably the hardest thing that farmers do in their agritourism or value-added ventures, anything else that they're doing. Aside from, when they're producing a regular crop and selling it wholesale, it's not intuitively, marketing is more complex sometimes, but farmers are used to the nuts and bolts of production, and sometimes marketing can throw them for a loop. So it is not simple, and it is really dependent on the marketing research that you do to determine who your customer is, communicate what you have to offer in terms of what your consumers value, deliver what you promise, and delight your customers who will recommend you to others, price your offerings for a profit, and do it all with a smile. No wonder it can feel intimidating, but you can tackle it step by step. So who are your customers? You have to identify your customers and do some marketing research. Depending on your enterprise, you have an ideal customer, I'm sure, but you will get other people who either come to the farm that you maybe weren't expecting, or who have made certain other connections to find you. So if you're, last week we watched the Mississippi group from the South and entertained schools and preschool children, and their customer was basically schools, children, groups of children, parents and children. So it was really fun watching all the activity on those farms. So you have to find out through agritourism associations, tourism councils, and local chambers of commerce who would be your most likely customer, your group of customers. And then we have to target them. You have to be familiar with your market. What types of agritourism activities are popular or increasing in popularity? Notice where growth is taking place in the industry and the types of activities and goods consumers are seeking. What changes and developments in the agritourism market might be expected in the foreseeable future? So doing this marketing research is really critical to knowing who your customer is. Your niche, what makes your business unique and why will people come to you and not someone else? We're right in the height of pumpkin time, and we have several businesses around here in our county. And I always think to myself, boy, don't they really compete against each other? But they both sell out every year. So I'm thinking that there's even more room for more people doing more things in the fall time of the year. So just my simple observations lead me to some conclusions. But you also have to set yourself apart from your competitors. What makes you different? What makes you unique? What is your story? And how special are your products? Are you marketing something like organic? Do you have some claims that you're putting on your products? Are you raising exotic animals, unique activities? We saw some zip lining activities last week too, and how to train people, basically employees, to manage the zip lines. So if nobody in your area is doing zip lines and you have no fear, you could put in a zip line. So just consider some of the things and maybe not do exactly what other people are doing. Also, what is your budget? You must have a budget for marketing. You must have some kind of an idea and set aside funds for your marketing. A rule of thumb for beginning agritourism is that 10 to 30% of gross revenues should be invested in marketing. And in a way, I think that might be somewhat outdated because now in the realm of social media, you can do things much cheaper than you used to be able to do. Maybe not many print ads, but social media that doesn't cost as much but reaches as many or more of your target audience. So I wanted to talk a little bit about trends in agritourism. The trends, according to Fresh Trends in 2016, noted that visitors preferred local, respondents to the survey preferred local. They felt strongly about keeping their food dollars local. And they want connections with farmers. Food is now a cultural product to discover, share, make, and trade. And we will have a really great YouTube video about the Hudson region and food as it relates to place. So that's coming up soon. Also, consumers value transparency. Today, shoppers are very educated and seek out product attributes important to their lifestyles and beliefs. So if you're making a product that you want to target to millennial foodies, then you need to know what they value. Your story has to coincide with what they're interested in, and you have to find some common ground to come together to say this is the product for you. So, or this is the activity for you, or this is whatever, the camping experience. So keep that in mind as the millennials seem to be spending quite a bit of money visiting farms and buying products. Also, agritourism is one of the fastest growing forms of global tourism. So that is a trend that has been happening probably for the last 5 years anyway. it's much more prevalent in some foreign countries than it is here. It depends on the region of our country too, and what kind of support they're getting locally by tourism advocates, etc. So consumer trends also, locally produced foods, unique homegrown restaurants are increasingly one of the main hooks to entice travelers. And that was from Virginia Tech's Pamplin College of Business. So they have been studying tourism at that college for some time, and they've done some really good work looking at the food industry and how to get people hooked as travelers. So in your risk management portfolio that you're working on with marketing, you need to take into consideration changing consumer preferences, the weather if it affects your venue or activity, government actions, and factors affecting price. Now let's just get back. We talked about consumer preferences. Weather plays a huge risk, and in your business, we've talked a little bit about weather and lightning storms in the production part of our work here. But also, I'll just use the Northeast again this year. I think it's rained every other day for the last 60 days. And this is the height of the agritourism, pumpkin picking, all those kinds of things, the fall activities. And luckily, some of the events went off without rain, but the grounds were saturated. So some of the activities had to modify their parking. They had to make sure that they had tents that were adequate for rain and wind. Maybe they put those tents up a week ahead of time so the ground underneath wasn't wet. The weather plays a huge role in outdoor activities. So we went over mitigation strategies on that prior. Government actions could include, I always think of zoning actions on the parts of local government to protect or protect the public, perhaps, or I know in Maine they have done some work regulating some agritourism with wagons, pulling wagons and wagon rides. Factors affecting price. So in this, say, global economy, there could be factors affecting price that you would never even consider. So let's just take dairy products, for example. The dairy industry has had a 4-year low, and milk at the store isn't super cheap like you would expect it to be, but it's not really expensive. And if you're doing if you have milk on the farm that people can buy, you need to kind of think about, well, they can go get milk at the grocery store for $3.99 a gallon. Why would they spend $3.99 for my half gallon? So there could be something like that. There could be issues with meat, shortages, surpluses, the global economy. So think about other factors outside your farm that could affect the price that you ask for your product. You should have contingency plans. So I'm sure that most of you have seen something similar to this slide, and I won't dwell on it. But the 4 P's of marketing include product, place, price, and promotion. Product. Is there a market for what you're selling? Can you sell it? Is there some way to change your good or services to more adequately address a consumer demand? The quality of your staff and their training is also important. when you're considering agritourism. The place, this is really critical. Is your location one that's easily found by consumers? Will potential customers notice your agritourism business in passing? Are there other beneficial aspects to your location, such as impressive natural scenery? So place is really important, although I think now with social media and Facebook, people will find you with GPS. They will find you. But I think it's important that you have adequate signage if you're too far off the beaten track, or even if you're a mile off of a main road. I think place is critical, but I think if it's something that people want to come to and see, they will find you one way or the other. Price. You have to balance the price charged for your goods between the need to attract customers and maximize sales and the need for those sales to yield a profit. I will refer to the pumpkin thing again this year and the rain we had in the Northeast. Everyone has loads of pumpkins and they're everywhere. But nobody's really selling them too cheap. I think that they are looking at what their neighbors are selling for and what the grocery stores might be asking for them. And it's the activity, it's the experience of the children going out and picking out their own pumpkin. And we haven't had an actual freeze till last night. So the pumpkin enterprises haven't had to scramble to get their pumpkins out of the field until maybe yesterday. So I think that's really important to consider price, but also to not underprice yourself and make sure that you're covering all of your expenses and getting a profit too. Promotion. Where and how to promote and advertise your business are critical. Advertising in agritourism and similar businesses has traditionally come from mostly customer-to-customer word of mouth. Advertising through various forms of media, websites, brochures can also be effective in getting your word out. Membership in agritourism organizations and business organizations such as your local Chamber of Commerce can help publicize your business and inform consumers specifically seeking goods and services that you offer. The popularity and usefulness of the internet can make it an effective place to market your business if used properly. So we'll get more into the internet and social media. And I really think that internet is replacing a lot of the print that we've seen in the past. And I think you can reach your target audience much better and cheaper with websites and social media than print ads. There's always a place for print ads or brochures when we're doing cross promotion, especially rack cards in tourist areas. You still see a lot of racks. You see a lot of rack cards. You pick them up when you're on vacation. You decide where you're going. So they can be effective as well. So income sources, we've talked about a little bit, and I'm just going to reiterate, when you're marketing, you also have to think of, how much am I going to charge and what are the fees going to be? Now, admission fees to your venue, I believe last week the woman said she could never decide how much to charge an adult or a child, so she charges everybody the same. Some people don't have a fee like that, but they rely on product sales. I've been to other places where there's a small fee, but you get a credit back when you buy something. So the wineries up in the Finger Lakes might have a tasting fee, but you get that $4 or $5 back off the price of, say, a product that you buy there. So that's kind of a nice way to do it, and they've been doing that for some time. Some people shy away from a per head fee Sometimes just a parking fee is more palatable. But anyway, an admission fee, a tour fee. If you have special tours, and some people might want to do them and some people might not, say you're going to tour the farm facility, the barn, to see the animals. Not everybody might want to do that, but you could set up a special fee for, say, a half an hour tour, because that's going to take one employee away from doing something else. So you could just have that as a separate fee. Your sales of your fresh farm products will expand your customer base while they're there at the store, at your farm. So even if it's not your product, you might invite other farmers who have products that you feel the customers would like. You can get a commission on those, or you could, you could have some kind of a fee set up. I know our local farm here on the weekends offers space to honey and maple syrup vendors. It's not competing with his pumpkin sales, but it brings in more revenue for the whole operation. Sales of the processed farm products, if you have something else there, if you are doing the fall events, maybe during the summer, you could process some jam in your certified kitchen. You could buy in neighbors' products and make money on those. You could have crafts. You could have activity fees. If children come and you have an activity that costs you some money to put together, maybe painting pumpkins, there's always a cost to that. Nobody cares about giving a few bucks extra for that. Classes on the farm, anything to learn how to do something, that could be a fee-based operation. Tasting fees we've discussed. I think when you have high-value products like wine or at a distillery, most of them have a tasting fee, and it's a limited thing. You get one group of products, and then you pay the fee. Facility rentals, many people are interested in having family events or parties in an interesting venue. You could have a pavilion that you rent. People are always looking for pavilions. There aren't enough pavilions in our county at all, and they're always rented out. So that might be something of interest. Farm lodging and food service. The only cautionary tale with food service is don't get involved unless you're certified. And what people are doing now is inviting certified people to their farms to provide that service, so people stay longer if there's food there. And if they get hungry and there's no food, they're going to go look for food. You want to keep them there for a period of time. So having a food truck come in for a special event, or having the ladies auxiliary come in, is a really good way to offer something. Even if a charitable organization wants to provide food, it just keeps people there longer, and it solves a need that they have. So once you get the people to your farm, it's important to encourage them to post their visit on social media. In my travels, I'm always asked upon leaving, they give me this little TripAdvisor card, and will you put in a review for us? And I always say, sure, I'll put in a review. And TripAdvisor is one that I check when I'm going someplace. So if you can get on TripAdvisor to get more exposure, it's very good. We will look at some TripAdvisor feedbacks from some fall venues in a little bit. But I think services like that are very well used by people who travel. somehow you have to incentivize your audiences to come back. Now, whether you give them a coupon to come back within a couple of weeks, you want them to remember you. You want to maybe have a sign-in and with an email address that you might contact them when you have some specials going on or other events. So somehow try to work on getting your people not just to the farm once, but as regular visitors. Especially if you're selling meat or honey or other products. They might come to an event, they might buy some honey or maple syrup, but you want them to come back. And stay connected to them somehow, whatever their preference is. Some people love newsletters. They might like you to email them a monthly thing about calving season or whatever else goes on the farm. So keep connected. So your customer may also change a little bit as time moves on. You need to focus on who you're trying to reach. What do they value? What is their income and price willingness to pay? Are your customers one-time or lifetime? So we want to make as many people lifetime as we can. Maybe if they don't actually come back to visit, they talk about your farm, they give you a good review. Maybe they don't live close, but maybe with those positive TripAdvisor reviews, they will encourage other people to come. So we are going to talk about the farm story and telling your story. And I know you've heard this before, but your story is very important. People are very interested in how long has the farm been in business? How long have you been a farmer? Why are you a farmer? What do you love about farming? And you have to keep that story consistent. Try not to exaggerate or change the story, but have a regular story. Maybe it's posted to around the farm, or maybe little vignettes here and there. Did you know this farm has been in the family for 200 years? Or did you know that we used to grow cauliflower here? You know, just little things that make the connection with you to your customers. You can also, if you're starting out, start out at some events with information on your venue. You can build your name and brand recognition through others in co-marketing with cross-promotions. So maybe there's an event, but you're not quite ready to go yet. Maybe you are going to do a bed and breakfast or some kind of camping adventure. You could just put up a booth at a farmer's market, because many of the farmers markets in our area attract people from outside the area. Find a place to cross-promote. Do some community outreach. Sometimes it's free to visit with a local reporter if you're starting up something, or get an article in the Chamber of Commerce newsletter. So a person becomes a customer after they decide to take action to come to your farm. So you have all these persons out there, and you really have to find out who they are and then target them to come to your farm. I mentioned telling a story, and make sure it's an authentic story, that somebody else doesn't come onto your social media site and say, hey, that's not true. That would be awful. So engage the visitors in the products or services that you're providing, especially with products. How are they grown? How are they processed? The ups and downs of farming. I talked about the rain this year. Some people would say, well, gee, why do your pumpkins have a softer stem? Why can't I pick it up by the stem? Well, you know, we've had all this rain, and maybe they are kind of getting soft. why you enjoy farming, how your products or services are unique, and make it personal. So you'll always get people who ask the really hard questions. Do you use pesticides? Or why are you no-till? Or why do you do conventional tillage? You have to be ready. You have to be ready with a consistent story and back it up with some research-based information. Also, stories help people remember you and your farm. You can use humor, you can use emotion. It's just finding that common ground with your visitor. But the visitors want to make a connection with you, and they want to continue that connection because they like something that you have, they like your farm, they like your product. So keep in mind, it's 10 times easier to sell something else to an existing customer who loves your business than it is to find a new customer. So take care of those customers and expand your customer base by diversifying into other products or services. And it may not be something that you have to do personally, but you can invite other people to join you on your farm. So branding your farm in the story, just some things that you might put in your story, how long your farm's been in business, your unique location, a view, your size, the product, service, mix of goods, quality attributes, benefits to the consumer, price, reputation, and lifestyle. So all these things you can kind of work into your brand, and it's part of your marketing strategy, but consistency is really important, and make sure it's accurate and it's authentic. Now, off-season up in the Northeast is always a problem. Things close up, the visitors don't want to come, it's cold, and if you have facilities and you have payments to make or you want to make use of those facilities, cash flow can suffer during the off times of the year. So if you have something, a facility, you might be able to host other groups and make it a challenge to come, take advantage of bad weather to attract snowshoers, cross-country skiers, anything that anybody that wants to come and do something. There's all kinds of groups that are interested in coming in bad weather. Hunting isn't usually in the worst part of the season, but it can be bad in November as well. So fee hunting might be something that you might consider, or just having trails for people to use. But generating that steady income is important in the off season. If your animals are housed, you could still have farm tours. You just have to take more consideration to make it safe, get rid of ice, and make it safe for people to be there. So now we'll shift gears a little bit into your internet presence. Websites are essential, and don't skip on the time devoted to developing a good website. Today, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are also deemed essential. You can blog from your site. Credit cards are essential to have in your program. It's not just it is a marketing tool, because in surveys done with consumers, especially if they're coming from out of the area, they don't want to carry a lot of cash. And they will buy more if they don't have to pay cash. Make sure that's working and easy to operate, and you can also offer a credit if you have to. So make sure you know the nuts and bolts of credit cards. Your local tourism sites can give you a link to your place. So you need to be involved with your local chamber and make sure that you can multiply your marketing by using other people's websites. Get on maps, get on trails, and maximize when people and how people see your business. And you can also track these efforts. They have counts on your websites. Make sure you use them. When are people visiting your site? Are people visiting your site? If they're not visiting your site, you need to be more visible. Get on TripAdvisor or something similar. Invite press to your events and offer interviews. Free press is a great way to market your offerings. And reporters are always looking for fodder or a good story. So tell your same story to the press and get an article in the local papers. Sometimes they're even picked up by other news feeds. So it's important. E-newsletters. Now, there are a lot of farms that do an e-newsletter. It's not, it takes time, it takes work. I think newsletters are very popular for production farms where maybe a strawberry picking operation is keeping you updated, or any other kind of view pick. You can also promote. I pick at a blueberry farm that promotes early and late picking at a little more reasonably, and then during the season it's full price. So I'm always hitting at full season. I never get there early or late, but other people do. So I always get those little messages that pop up and say, the berries are really great today. We need pickers. We need pickers to come. Or the berries are thin and wait a week. So it helps me because I only want to go when I can pick handfuls of berries. And you could use promotional offerings when times are slow. Maybe you can send out, maybe it's, I think January, February after the holidays is always a doldrum time. Maybe people would be more incentivized to come out if you're running a sale. Or maybe just have an event with other farmers coming together with a mini pop-up market. Connect with your local press. Keep a neat, safe farmstead. We've talked about that. Listen to the customers and their needs and wants. So yes, you are going to get some feedback on social media. Make sure somebody's monitoring that. If you don't have time, make sure somebody is, because something might be going on that you don't know about. And it was reported on social media and you didn't change anything. So make sure somebody with a calm demeanor and somebody who's experienced in customer service might be replying or reacting to feedback. Make sure your employees are all on the same page and understand the mission of the farm, the goals and everything. Join the chamber and tourism groups and smile and treat your customers well and as guests. Now, I did mention collaborating with neighbors and other agritourism businesses. In our area, we have quite a few B&Bs popping up. And when Cooperstown is in full swing, sometimes, there's somebody wants a room and maybe something happened at a house. Maybe there was a electrical problem or some physical thing that needed fixing. Sometimes it's great to say, if you have an overage, let me know. I might have a vacancy or something like that. Fill in a gap. Work with your neighbors. Yes, you're in competition, but at the same time, things can happen at your place too. So it would be nice to keep your customer happy by saying, we have a problem at the house, but I have put you up in my neighbor's house. So then their vacation isn't ruined. Be a good neighbor also and mitigate any issues like noise or any other parking, any other problems you might have within the neighborhood. Now, don't risk your product and reputation on false or misleading claims. Now, I think I put a sheet in class 1 or 2 about, and if I didn't, I will put it in, about claims, food claims. But agritourism claims can be anything from food to our horses are very gentle when they're not, or come and hug our cow and then it's really not a cow, there's no cow there, or it's a calf, so keep things truthful. Have a legal label for your product. We talked about labeling and mislabeling in prior classes. I found this one, cheat death. That would be nice if we all drank the pomegranate juice and we never died. So I think they're making a promise. I know it's great stuff. I know it's super healthy. But, just keep in mind that you want to have realistic claims, not just for products, but say you have a zip line. Anybody can do it. Well, maybe not everybody should do it. And be clear on your promotions that you'll offer. So if you're having a sale, this always bugs me. I'll get online and somebody's having 15% off on everything, they say. But then when you get there, it's only on certain things. So don't do that. If it's just on merchandise from last year or the spring season and now it's fall, be clear on that. It's the bait and switch, but it kind of turns people off. And I mentioned addressing the complaints in a timely fashion. Set your privacy settings carefully on social media to manage the posts and comments. You've got to be able to do that and do it right then. Monitor social media for reviews. Sign up for Google alerts that will tell you when your farm name has come up somewhere else. Maybe it's a positive thing and it's come up in a newspaper and you didn't know. Maybe somebody did a story on your farm who was a visitor. Consider a complaint an opportunity to improve. Don't be afraid to visit and get ideas from others. I think everybody steals stuff from other people. It's the name of the game. You just can't steal something that's patented, or you can't steal somebody else's name, but you can get ideas, and especially from others outside your area. Research your claims, seek out assistance, I've talked about that, and follow the rules in your home communities with respect to special permits, noise ordinances, parking, signage, everything. So really, I've talked about that before, but that's, if you change something, if you decide that you're going to have an event, it's kind of a pop-up thing, and it creates a lot of traffic congestion, that can be a real problem in a small town. So just try to follow the rules. I mentioned these things: handle your complaints, have a dedicated person following your Facebook and Twitter, refer to the handbook on complaints and poor reviews, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And Carla's going to give us quite a bit of information, real life information that she has handled. You need to enjoy working with the public to profit from agritourism. If you're not into having people around, then maybe you need to think of something else, or have somebody else deal with the people while you just keep farming. That's one way to do it too. Be sure to analyze at the end of the year or the season the income and expense statement and make sure you're making money, especially for the time spent. Put marketing dollars where they work the best and concentrate on who your customers are, and then take good care of them. Now, in your packets, I've put in a publication called Marketing Strategies for Agritourism Operations, and that's something that you really want to look at. And if there are any questions, I think we're going to just keep going because we can answer questions at the end. I've added a few more slides since I sent them to everyone. And it's at this point that I will introduce Carla Krim, who will talk about handling complaints and poor reviews on social media. Carla?
Hello there. I'm Carla Krim, as Marianne introduced, and make sure I'm standing in the right place here. So I am the Horticulture and Natural Resources Educator at Cornell Cooperative Extension in Delaware County. But a lifetime ago, I actually had an online business. And it wasn't exactly agritourism. It was actually downloadable sewing patterns. And you're probably wondering, well, what do those things have in common? Well, the common thread are the customers. No matter what business you are in, there are certain personality types that you are going to have to deal with. Certainly, there's good and bad. If you think of your friends, your friends. You have the friends that are very positive, enthusiastic people who hardly ever complain and just enjoy life. And then you have the ones that are negative, 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 even when things are good. So you're going to get, when you're online, people's personalities are just even more amplified when they're behind a computer safely in their office room or even wherever their computer is in their home where they feel safe and comfortable and can take the time to really get their thoughts together. Sometimes that's a dangerous thing. So I'm just going to take you through these customers and sort of share my experiences that I've had with these types and how to ultimately make them your fans. Okay, 5 types. Now it's very subjective how you would classify people. The ones that they focused on in this infographic do highlight some of the personalities you're very likely to encounter, and it's neat because it tells you the frequency that you might see them and how the level of difficulty it is to please them. So we are going to start out with the meek customer, and you actually have these in your handouts that will make the text a little more readable if you want to follow along with that. I would absolutely consider myself the meek customer. I'm not going to complain unless something is terribly wrong. I go and, if the burger's cold, there's probably somebody in the kitchen having a bad day and I'm just going to enjoy the burger. I'm actually married to a different type of customer that we'll get to in a little while who handles things quite differently than I do. And when this customer complains, I usually sink under the table. I really don't like conflict. But the converse side of that is that I'm not likely to go out of my way to leave a compliment either, and I'm not that loyal to brands. I'll go wherever the price is best or whatever's convenient for me. So I'm kind of the me customer. And we're actually pretty common. You can see from the graphic that they're more than 50, well, they have it rated in birds, I guess, relating to Twitter. They're relatively common. But they're also very easy to appease. They just want to be heard. They want to say, I had this terrible experience and I'm upset about it. They're not really asking you for anything in resolution. They just want to be heard. So a lot depends on the format that you're in, whether or not you can respond or whether or not it's even appropriate to respond. Certainly things like TripAdvisor do leave you a little space where you can reply to the customer. And really, if you have the opportunity to reply, no matter what the platform, you always should, whether it's positive or negative, which when you're running a very large business becomes overwhelming, and that's when you probably should farm it out to someone. But really, when you have this meek customer and they've left a complaint, they're the ones that said, the person snarled at me and cursed me out, and all I was trying to do was get the pickles not on my burger, and genuinely their complaint is valid, and you can just tell from their tone that this is not somebody who's just trying to pull one over on you or that's a frequent complainer, which we'll get to in a minute. So dealing with them, you can just apologize, be honest, I'm so very sorry, I will look into this, be humble, say we really appreciate you taking the time to bring this to our attention. And generally they'll say thank you and move on, and that's it. You've handled that one successfully. So again, very easy to resolve. Just be honest, be apologetic, which really is the best policy for all of these from the get-go, but some of them may need next level support. Okay, the aggressive customer. Oh my goodness. They are hard to please and will readily complain. Just because they're either perfectionists, generally it's because they're perfectionists, or perhaps they're in a similar business, they know how they feel like things should be. And boy, once they get going with a complaint, they're gonna go and go and go. And it sometimes does feel like you're personally being attacked. If you get on it right away, efficiently, you have a little bit more of a chance of appeasing them. Don't procrastinate. They want your resolution right away. This is going to take some time to please them. And don't fight back. That is the worst thing you can do. That's what they want you to do. They want you to come in and on the defensive. And it's, as a human, that's just your nature, to come back and say, no, this is my business and I'm proud of it and we would never do that. And why are you saying this? And you're a jerk. And it's, try to never ever get personal with them, because that's just going to spur them on. So it may take several interactions to appease them, and try to avoid doing that publicly. It's the temptation to just sit there and fire back when they're throwing all this at you, but just say, please direct message me. In a lot of these situations, you have the option of direct messages, whether it's Facebook, or you can leave your email address or phone number. Please contact us directly at this means of communication, and we will absolutely try to bring this to a resolution. Another advantage of doing it privately is that if you end up giving that person a discount or a freebie of some sort to appease them, you don't want everyone else to see that, because everyone else is going to want that. And now this takes us to the high roller, which I guess you can have a high roller aggressive customer, or maybe you have the meek high roller. But these are people that have money or power and they know it. And they are going to hold that over you when you don't meet their expectations. And because they are vocal and have the means and apparently the time to spend what feels like harassing you, they can have a farther reach across the internet. So again, it's kind of, and they just want resolution. And again, you may need to just take this into a one-on-one setting to really figure out what it is that they want. And then again, if you look at how common they are, they're not that common. So it's maybe worth it to give them something that they deem a luxury. Oh, I'm going to give you a free washcloth when you visit my farm stand, or something that you wouldn't necessarily give to everybody that makes them feel important, because ultimately that's what this personality needs, is to be validated as someone who is possibly better than the rest of society. Okay, and then the opportunists, they're going to see stuff going down and they're going to latch right on, and they're going to say, they're the type that they are waiting to slip and fall and sue you, or, they're just, they're looking for something wrong all the time. And and they see that. This is sort of how, it's almost a game to the opportunist customer to see, how can I get something for nothing? And they are just going to keep saying, well, what more can you do? And that doesn't make me happy. So it's best just early on, and again, privately if possible, to say, well, what can I do to help you? What is it that you need to make this right? And what they ask for might be completely irrational. I want your first child. It could be that, not that crazy, but pretty crazy what they're expecting. And keep in mind, you're running a business and you can't just give things away all the time. So you may have to just ultimately say, I'm very sorry. This is the best I can do for you. And I'm very sad that you're disappointed, but we need to move on. So again, this is a type that can be quite difficult to fix and can take a lot of your time. Chronic complainer. Oh my gosh, we all have one of these in our lives that just nothing is good enough. And you see this, and this is not something you can really monitor, but on their personal Facebook pages, they will take pictures of things they deem unacceptable and just complain about it. I have one Facebook friend who, she loves fast food, but boy, and she eats it all the time, but she's always, oh, this Buc-ee's burger is too small, and why do I even come here? And then she's in Buc-ee's again a month later. So, it's, and it's like, is this woman never happy? But that she clearly is a loyal customer to these places, even though she seemingly hates them. So this is where you have to put on your thick skin and realize that this is what this person does. And they're probably deeply unhappy, and you can't let that drag you down. You do have to be extremely patient, and it's very hard not to do something that will haunt you. And this is where I'm actually going to get into my experience with social media. I'll just tell you a little bit about the business I was in. And this is just, so I'll give you a little history of the business. I actually have a PhD in plant physiology and worked in research for quite a few years. But when I had my son, I decided I wanted to stay home with him. And I had sewing experience, so I was actually making high-end doll clothes and selling those on eBay. And that was really my first experience with getting online reviews and dealing with customers, but it was a very high-end type of audience. And a lot of time was taken into each garment, a lot of time was spent working with the customers, so I rarely had to deal with complaints. I always got great reviews, I shipped on time, it was no problem. But then I transitioned over to pattern making, which was a digital downloadable product. And so the delivery was online, the purchasing was online, all marketing was online, and then of course the reviews were online. And when you are selling something in the order of thousands a year, you're going to see all kinds. So what I'm actually showing you are the reviews of a pattern company on Etsy. And this was not my pattern company, but rather I developed the patterns for this fabric designer. We worked together for many years. And when the business grew to be very, very large, we actually hired a social media person. Well, she was actually a stay-at-home mom in Canada, but she loved sewing, she loved people, she was fantastic. So, she was able to be up in Manitoba on her computer responding to these customer concerns or just very engaging. And ultimately, I decided to go back to science, or plant science, and got out of the pattern business. So what I'm showing you right now is some of the reviews for this pattern company now. So I have some attachment to it, but not as much now that I'm no longer in it. So I can sit here detached and talk about these reviews. Okay, so what you see up at the top is, these are just the most recent reviews. And the first one's 5 stars about the shirt pattern, which is actually, it's a pretty difficult thing to make. If anyone knows about sewing, there's a lot of little bits and pieces on a shirt pattern. But this person left 5 stars, they really liked it. The person below that, and it's a little hard to see on my screen, they say very well done, but they only left 4 stars. So why not 5? Well, maybe they're the type of person who never leaves 5 stars. Maybe nothing's ever good enough, but it seems like they were pleased with the pattern and, happy with the transaction. So it wouldn't be proper to go back and respond, why did you only leave 4 stars? You just let it go and realize that at the top with those 2,000 transactions that it's 5 stars overall, and that anything that's not all the way up to par eventually gets buried in all the super positive things. So the majority of the comments are great. Some people leave fabulous reviews. They take a picture of the item that they made from the pattern. They're very, very happy. That's the vast majority. And that's one of the things you need to consider is anything negative that comes out will ultimately get buried if you run a good business and people like your product. Okay, but look at this 1-star review. It just hurts my brain and hurts my feelings. Okay, so when you go and look at the types of customers, I would classify this as one of your aggressive customers. She spent a lot of time, also maybe a high roller. She says, I've sewn shirts before, I can do this. This is overly hard. Really, she was disappointed. And the way Etsy works is you don't interact right there on the page. I'm hoping that the people in charge now wrote to her and said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your experience, and what can I do to help you? I'm happy to help you work on the pattern, or possibly I can send you another pattern for free and you'll have a better experience. Because chances are, if they're leaving this type of review on this type of site, they're talking about it on Facebook, they're tweeting about it, or they're leaving it on any other forum where they can complain and be heard. And so you really want to try to get to them by all means possible to try to come to resolution. I mean, it's much easier to let it ruin your day, slink off, and let it get buried, which that's why I turned my social media over to someone else, is because I didn't like dealing with those interactions. And again, you look and the majority of reviews are these glowing 5-star and said that people loved it. So I've covered the 5 types that were listed in the infographic, but I want to talk to you about one more type of customer that you are very likely to encounter, and they're actually not even a customer at all. This is the troll. Has everyone heard of internet trolls? These are people that really aren't even your customers, but have for some reason decided that they don't like something about you or your product, and will just really try to ruin your day, try to ruin your reputation just because they can. They sit behind that computer and make trouble. And I experienced trolls actually in an online or a Facebook sewing group. The group was private, but it had 10,000 people in it. Pretty much everyone who sewed from the downloadable patterns in that world, and then some, were part of these groups and were able to watch the interactions. And so one night, some woman got on and who'd never used my patterns, saying they were overly complex. I can't remember what else, but I was in the mood and I decided to stand up for myself, and I actually posted this meme as a response. Haters gonna hate, which some people, and people will say exactly what they think. So my supporters said, oh, that's hilarious, go you. But some people that weren't quite yet my customers were honestly offended and saying, why can't you take criticism? And so in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have done that, and I should have just let my customer service person handle it. And thankfully, as an extension agent, I don't get that sort of criticism on a daily basis. Certainly, it's more real life interaction. And in an agritourism business, you will get that hands-on, face-to-face validation that you don't necessarily get from something that's all online. So you really, when you see something online that's possibly from a troll, again, thick skin, put it in perspective that you have, by and large, very positive interactions, and you just have to follow Taylor Swift's advice and shake it off. The good news is that negative comments will ultimately be buried, or an even better scenario is that other people who know about your business will respond to the comments, say, I've never had that experience, and unlike the previous poster, I was treated like a king, and really that must have been, it must be that person. But you can never come out and say this person's aggressive or this person's a troll. You just always be the bigger person. And hopefully my little bit of experience in that world has been helpful for you, and you can think of ways that you can apply it to your agritourism operation. I'm going to hand it back to Marianne now.
Thank you, Carla, for that really good insight. I think it's really important to get a good perspective on your customer, and then, handling the customer complaints tactfully. It makes a huge difference in your outlook. So just in closing, before the break, be sure to handle the customer appropriately. Don't ignore complaints, and realize it's just part of marketing your product. It may not be your favorite task, And if it isn't, assign it to someone who is good at it, good at responding and doing it delicately. So we're going to break, and then we're going to watch a 15-minute, it's called Every Field Has a Story, and it's about the Hudson region. And it's really more about food and product and place. And but we'll break until about 20 after. Yeah. Okay, we're going to get started again. Every field has a story. I found this when I was doing some research on food and place, and I thought it was really, really a great, if I can get it going here. Should have been working on it, I guess. It's really a great little piece. So let me try to do this. It worked before, but it's not working now. Let me see if I can just find it. Oh, we don't want that, do we? Sorry about that. I'm trying to find it, and I've had it. I've had it up and running, and it isn't there. Darn it. Okay, let me try it again. Okay. Okay. How do I make it?
When I tell people I study gastronomy, the most common reaction I get is, "Oh, I just love the stars." Another common response is, "Oh, gastroenterologist? Very impressive. Hey, I've got this stomach thing." No, neither the stars, astronomy, nor the bowels, gastroenterology, but rather gastronomy, the study of the relationship between food and culture. For my study, I applied for and was awarded a research grant to work with slow food in Italy. That meant that the Fulbright Commission actually paid me to eat and drink a lot, all the way through that glorious Mediterranean country. What I discovered in Italy was that the culture, identity, and economy of a place is defined by its food and its food producers. Following that understanding has led me down a long, winding 8-year road back to the Northeast. Little did I know that happily eating and drinking my way through Italy would have such direct relevance to my work here in Hudson, New York. Not only did slow food leave me with the palate for expensive wine, it also left me with a heightened sensitivity to the natural world that has been rather impossible to shake. In that sense, you could say slow food ruined my life. And Alice, I'm so glad and grateful it did. So, why am I living here? Why am I not stomping grapes in a vineyard in Puglia? Come to think of it, it's a very good question. Why not indeed? Well, the first day of stomping would be novel, tremendous fun, a celebration of local tradition and all of its pastoral glory. Second day of stomping, maybe okay, bit tiring. Third day of stomping, purple feet. A week into harvest, and I would realize why people mechanize. So we see that grape stomping in Puglia would not be eternally satisfying, But the human hunger to step out of our daily lives and experience different and we imagine better ways of being is perfectly sincere. It's one I know well. What I see today here in the Hudson Valley is a flavor, a pulse, a pull, an idea of the experience of place that propels people to visit farms here. That pull is the very heart of agritourism. What is agritourism? A blended mixture of two industries, agriculture and tourism. It is the practice of touring farms and often participating in farm activities. The Italian government, perhaps not notable for efficiency in many other categories, maintains high industry standards for its agriturismo sector, protected under national policy since 1985. Officially, agriturismo is the practice, activities of hospitality performed by entrepreneurial farmers that must remain connected to and complementary to farming activities. Va bene. But what does agritourism look like here? Well, there are many pursuits categorized as agritourism, from workshops on traditional skills such as canning, cheese making, to culinary tourism such as farm dinners, wine tastings, to the most prolific form of agritourism, pick your own orchards and roadside stands, to a new old concept now called farm stays. May be obvious, but a farm stay is when a paying guest stays on a farm, at least overnight. Unlike hands-off accommodation options such as hotels and B&Bs, farm stays give their guests an opportunity to get their hands dirty, give them a chance and their children to work on vacation. Agritourism might look like a child's smile as they reach under a warm, feathery hand for a freshly laid egg. And people pay for that sight. Agritourism might sound like the drip-drop of maple sap into a metal bucket. And people pay for that sound. Agritourism smells like, cow manure or sauerkraut being packed into jars. And people pay for those smells. Agritourism in the Hudson Valley tastes like crisp apple cider or a locally distilled gin. And people are paying for those tastes on their tongues. For the group of lawyers who signed up for Stone and Thistle Farms' Farmer for a Day program, agritourism felt slightly uncomfortable as the day's activity was castrating the young piglets. A standard farm practice, perhaps, but for the group of young urban lawyers, a formative, visceral experience of their pork dinner that shook them to the core. So they got exactly what they paid for. During the past 6 months, in order to get a picture of the state of agritourism in the region, I interviewed over 30 local farmers who host guests. To date, surprisingly little data had been gathered on the sector. In my interviews, I asked farmers why people came. It turns out everyone is thinking the same thing. Every farmer said that people who come to stay and eat and work on farms are seeking a connectedness in themselves that they sense has been lost. They'd like to find it, but they don't know how, but they know intuitively that farms are a good place to start looking. People come to restore, to renew, to reactivate, to remember, to regenerate. Agritourism, and particularly the farm stay, is a profitable and socially important part of the European rural economy. But farm stays are increasing in the US, but the sector remains underdeveloped in areas such as the Hudson Valley and the Berkshires. But it has great growth potential. At the crossroads of artistic, scientific, and physiological knowledges, farms offer a type of hands-on experience that people really crave. So, my proposition is that developing the farm-stay sector will help build a generation who wants to stop and sleep in the view. That participation is indeed a new economy. So, we know why people are going to farms. Is it not important also to ask what the agritourists take away with them when they leave? What do they tell their friends about? What do they remember, if not what they tasted, smelled, saw, heard, and touched? Our senses act as gateways to individual epiphanies that, the hope is, lead to a greater sense of collective accountability. We simply do not feel as responsible for what is far away from us. Oh, okay. But if I'm a farmer, why bother hosting pain-in-the-butt New Yorkers? Apparently, hospitality pays off in more than one way. Generally speaking, agritourism allows farmers to diversify operations, spread financial risk, and in many cases, maintain family farmland in production. Once up and running, an average farm stay here generates a third of a farm's total revenue. Farmers also considered the non-financial benefits of agritourism integral to the overall viability of their enterprise. Most farmers said that opening their doors kept the farms feeling vibrant and engaged with the community center of giving and receiving. Although not every farmer is cut out to be a host, those that are find the exchange of inspiration and ideas with guests to be a big perk. 10 years ago, the New York Times called the Hudson Valley the Napa of the East. We already have many artisanally crafted food products, many small farm businesses. Hudson itself, rich in maritime history, urban-rural linkages, has lots of press. So what's the new opportunity? Well, whether filled with grapes in Puglia or Napa, or apples here in Columbia County, every field has a story. These stories are waiting to be harnessed and woven together. Collectively, I think that these simple experiences compose the future of the region's character and identity. The Hudson Valley tourism market already generates $3.15 billion annually, but to date, marketing efforts have been disparate and disorganized. So the idea is, then, to build a synchronized, visible identity that links together the food, beverage, farm, and tourism industries. This could take the form of a new brand, perhaps coordinated through a consortium. This distinctive brand would connect product to place. The brand would have the culturally and environmentally sound principles of sustainable food and an aesthetic to match. Proven European models of terroir, which designate the geographic origin of a particular product, can apply to the diverse topography of the Hudson Valley. I believe this diversity is a strength, and the opportunity we have in front of us is to translate place-based food into a wider discussion of place-making. Of course, agritourism is not a panacea for the food and farm viability issues we do face. However, I argue that agritourism addresses many mutual goals of land conservation, rural economic development, environmental education, even food security, and therefore is worth a closer look. Farm stays, for example, fill tourist beds and maintain on-farm livelihoods, translating our region's best natural assets into regenerative, cultural, and economic ones. While it is unlikely that the US government will subsidize agritourism anytime soon, as is done in Italy and France, what can be encouraged is a conversation about standards, parameters, leadership, and moreover, new types of investment in this new field. Farm stays are like the apple was to Eve, an overnight invitation to try on our more wild selves. Let's move from staid, out-of-date models of land conservation in which we document and revere nature as something out there to new forms of reverence, grounded in our senses, grounded in personal use and engagement. Let's move the natural world closer into the familiar, into its appropriate place within us rather than just around us. My grandfather used to say, "Take me back to the old country." We should look overseas for old world tradition and inspiration. America's food culture remains ill-defined, young, awkward. We have lots to learn. But in part, through agritourism, we can spotlight and protect what is unique to this landscape. We can designate what is distinctive to this place. After all, every age-old tradition was, at one point, an innovation, simply worthy of repetition. The emerging Hudson Valley food culture dances at the intersection of tradition and innovation. And lucky for us, this next dance is in a field under the stars. Thank you.
As you can see, I think we've got some pretty impressive figures.
Okay. I have a couple more slides that I want to review with you. I thought Catherine was very inspiring. I think she's done some really good research in the Hudson Valley. She's got a good handle on food, a sense of place, the new agritourism, and possibilities that really, she opened the door very wide to what could be, not just in the Hudson Valley, but all across our state. So I was really inspired when I saw her slideshow. So let me just look at a couple of more things before we break for lunch. We have some local farm stands, and like before, I can't do the okay. Okay. So we have a place right here around the corner. I just wanted to log on to this Facebook because the Donnelly Farm Stand is here in Delaware County, and I did want to comment that he grows every year. He started, maybe 10 years ago, very small. And now he entertains so many people and their repeat customers all over the place. But this is kind of a picture of what's going on. But I also wanted to come down to some of the things that they're doing. They have these, they carve and light these totem poles every year. And people come from all over to see the totem poles. Tom and his wife Jenny are 60 years old. They got out of dairy about 10 years ago, and they wanted something that they could do seasonally. Their son comes back and helps them every year, and it's kind of a good thing because handling those pumpkins gets old after a while. But I just wanted to go down and show you Some of the comments from this season, great selection at very reasonable prices, very friendly people, beautiful, wonderful pumpkin farm with mountain backdrop. Can't say enough good things. The Donnelly farm is so beautiful. Here's some good posts. Okay, so they're adding on October 12th, which was, let's see, was that Columbus Day weekend? That was last weekend. Okay, I know Columbus Day weekend they were swamped, but they finished their second totem pole, 15 and a half feet tall. Additional vendors will be here again Saturday with local honey, maple, baked goods, jams, and jellies. We still have a lot of pumpkins of all sizes, winter squash, gourds, corn stalks, hay, ornamental corn, and beautiful sunflowers. Hope to see you this weekend. I did want to comment that last year they had a real production problem with winter squash. We went there, and Carla, our horticulturist, we all tried to solve, have her understand and help solve their production problems. But people still came back. They had to look somewhere else for winter squash, but this year there's so much winter squash out there of every kind and shape. This was cute. The second bride of the 2018 season is wearing an ivory specter gown with a white veil. Looks like the chapel is full of pumpkin family and friends. So they have these little artistic places. People can get their pictures taken there. Children can see the little pumpkin wedding figures. It's just so much going on there. They have a little cemetery that's cute. They've also done some risk management strategies that I noted. You can walk between the groups of pumpkins very easily. It's flat there. It's real dry. But they have a couple of wagons with pumpkins on them, but they've made sure that people can't, and little children can't climb on them, which is really important. But if you get a chance, it's Donnelly's farm. You can get to that. Then I wanted to take you to some comments from the TripAdvisor's. Let me see if I can get this right this time. Oh, shit. Okay. Now this place is located out below Ithaca. And I was hoping I could see the comments from that place, but it.
I'm going to search it right in that window. A little magnifying glass up to the top right corner. There you go.
Where? Oh, let me just try to find that. I thought these comments, oh, geez.
Just search Iron Kennel with that little, go back.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. It never works when I'm trying to do this.
There you go.
Okay. This is a very popular destination. The Iron Kettle Farm. It's out in Candor. I've been there before. I probably was there 10 years ago. It's a couple hours from here. It's not like I go there often, but I do stop if I happen to be going by. And I wanted to go through some of the highlights of Farm and Kettle, or the Iron Kettle. My kids really enjoy this place. I wish it was open year-round. There isn't much to do in this area. Corn maze, animals, attentive staff. That's an interesting point. Loved it and went back several times this year. Okay, so this person is a repeat customer. Love this farm. Go almost every October. Love seeing all the decorative pumpkins and Halloween festivities that have been going on. The shops are great. Food's great. Just an overall fun time for family and friends. The blue candy apples are the best. Def would recommend you stop by. Definitely. Okay. Will not be going back. Okay. Then I got to this and I'm like, why isn't this person going back? We went there last year with a 2-year-old and had a great time. The tickets for activities were very reasonable and adults could join in, supervised for free. So this year we took a 1 and 3-year-old. The tickets are $1.25 each. Activities are 2 to 3 tickets per person, and everyone over 2 must pay for each activity. So for example, in order to enter the playground, 2 parents and 1 child over 2 and supervise your kids, it costs $10.50. Or you can help the attendants standing with their backs to the playground or sleeping on a haystack are going to watch them. Or you can hope that those attendants are going to watch them. And that's just one activity. The food isn't bad, but trying to eat with the swarming bees is unpleasant at best, and it took a 14-point turn to get out of the parking lot as there are no attendants to organize parking. I would definitely recommend skipping this one. Boy, that's a real tough review. But, you know, realistic. Fun time. We took the kids to Iron Kettle for a fun afternoon. We did a hayride, corn maze, spook barn, fun house, fed the animals, played games, and picked out pumpkins. They also have lunch and snacks for sale. The girls loved going to the barn and looking at all the crafts for sale. This place is definitely a place to go for fun fall activity. Okay, then there's the attack of the bees. There are too many bees to be able to enjoy the farm without constantly worrying about getting stung. There were bees in the food even. Not sanitary and not professional. So, oh my gosh. You know, so it's, you know, if you were going to drive 2 hours, which, you know, I'd have to drive 2 hours to get there. I would look at these reviews, and sometimes when I'm looking at reviews, I read 10 of the latest reviews and then decide if I'm going to go there or not. I think maybe for little kids, or if you had 3 or 4 kids, it might be expensive. If you had a, you know, if you wanted to do a lot of activities. I think there's probably an age group that it appeals to more than other age groups. So anyway, that's just something. Let me just look at a couple more. We enjoyed our day for the most part. So the only bad part of our day, flies were in the ketchup and relish. Okay, you know, Carla says they have an insect problem. So, you know, you've got to mitigate bugs. People are allergic to bees. You could, I don't know if they could be proved negligent, but I remember when I was there, it seemed like there was a lot of fruit or apples around and drawing bees. Maybe it's a place that bees love. So, you know, you've got to weigh the good and the bad. The last one I'm going to go to is over by Cooperstown. It's called the Fly Creek Cider Mill. And you know,
The location box, you have to do it in the next one.
Oh.
Just type Fly Creek.
Oh, I see. I got it.
It's based on the,
Oh, okay.
there you go.
Okay.
Oh, you have to clear that box with the,
Over here?
yeah.
Higher. Okay. Okay, it's a little complicated. Okay, so the Fly Creek Cider Mill is located in beautiful Cooperstown, just outside of Cooperstown, I should say. And it's really popular this time of year. Cooperstown itself is a crazy place most of the time during the season. But I haven't been there in a while. As you can see the picture, it's a really busy place from time to time. So we'll go over some of these highlights. Nice surprise. We weren't planning on visiting this because we didn't know about it, but came across it in a local brochure. So we checked it out. The owners have it figured out, looping you in an organized way through the store where you have to pass by everything. Lots of samples of dips, sauces, apples, cider, and more, with plenty of staff to answer questions. Figured out how to staff it by using the Jamaican work program that a lot of resorts use. The cider press demo was great, and the duck, goose, chicken, rooster sanctuary and back allows for more entertainment, especially for kids. Lots to see and do there. Spent $100 easily, even though we had not planned to. I get in there and I can't get out without spending more money than I thought I would also. So here's another review. We love this place. This is the second time there. They have samples galore. It's a fun place to go. My wife loves the fudge that they make there. I like the extra sharp cheese they sell. They have so many things to look at, sample, and buy. They have a snack bar restaurant right there too. Don't let the long line stop you from going. The line moves fast. So, you know, we are in a kind of an instant generation. Everybody wants things fast. But as you can see with this place, it's enclosed where you go through the mill to sample all those samples, and they've got the bees under control. You're not going to have flies in your food.
Despite the name.
Yeah. Fly Creek is really, they've been in business a long time, and they also have more of a high-end clientele, in my opinion, because visitors to Cooperstown tend to go there. Parents of the college students in the neighboring town of Oneonta tend to go there when they are here for parents' weekends, which is in the fall. Okay, there was a couple of things that came up. Okay, over here on this one, this is a really long post. Everything looked good. Everybody likes samples. It says here, I don't know if it would be a great place to take young kiddies because there are just too many temptations in the form of candy and trinkets and other things for sale. I believe the Fly Creek Cider Mill is locally owned and operated. There was a friendly gentleman who passed us by, greeting us warmly and thanking us for visiting. This kind of personal attention goes a long way with customers. Another plus for the cider mill is its location. It isn't far from historic Cooperstown and from Omegang Brewery or Oneonta. All in all, it was a nice way for three girlfriends to spend a fall afternoon, and we'll probably make this an annual trek. Now, really, and that's what the Donnellys have found too. We talked to them quite a bit. Now, here's another one. Didn't live up to the hype. Okay. So this person's from California.
He's the high roller.
He's the high roller that Carla was talking about. These other people, Worth a Stop was the one from Alabama. This one didn't say where she was from. New York said great attraction. Syracuse. People who are coming from far away, but now this one is really far away. We've been to cider mills in California, and this one was really not different, except for having animals. The place has an upper level where, on the right day of the week and the right time of the year, you can watch apples being squeezed and made into cider. There is, of course, the gift shop. And they do place samples out there for guests to try. They also have a fairly reasonably priced snack bar, and the food was fine. The place would be good for kids of various ages. Enjoy. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess in California, you know, where you've got fruit growing all the time, they're just kind of, you know, saying, well, you have to be there on the right day and the right time of the year. Well, you know, they came to the Northeast for something, but I'm not sure what. We do have seasons here. An awesome time. The kids were kid-sized tractors, all kinds of things, not to mention all of the goodies inside the store. Now that's where they're making their big money, is on these value-added products that they're selling. Here's another, the last one that we'll do, a little over the top. The cider was delicious, but the facility was a little too much like a carnival. I tend to like quiet places, not overrun by kids. The cider mill reminded me of a carnival with many vendors, items for sale, and snacks to purchase. So this person thought they were just going to go to from Pennsylvania. Maybe they're used to the Amish farms or whatever, but they thought that this was what they might call commercialized. But I'm telling you, if you don't want to have to sample things and be tempted to buy things, you know, you can stay home. Stop by to watch them make the cider, sampled all the way through the store with all the apple dips, sauces, pies, cakes, wines, hard ciders, yummy. Cooled off with a refreshing, delicious apple cider slush. Took home some excellent sparkling cider and apple wine. Nice stop to check out gift ideas and fill up on all things apple.
They had a nice happy little buzz when they wrote that.
Yeah. So you know, you learn a lot from TripAdvisor. And I would say if you are inviting people to the public like this, if you've got things for the public to do, and you feel that you're ready, you want to be ready to be on TripAdvisor, that you've got things down pat. I think once you're on TripAdvisor, things can really explode in a big way, and they could implode too. So you have to be careful. So I did want to note that this session is our fourth session. Next week is our session on human resource risk. And then we are going to take a break. I can't get a farmer panel a couple days after Halloween. They're too busy this time of year. And we are going to offer this series again in January and February. So at that time, I will have, I'm hoping to get some of the farms that we've talked about here to come and give us, put together some presentations and talk about their ventures. And I'll try to have a good mix. If there is a kind of agritourism business that you would like me to try to find a speaker for, please let me know, and I will make every attempt to do that. So for now, we're going to break for lunch, and I would like you to continue working on your risk management plans. If you don't have all of the materials, for some of you, I've mailed them out. For others, you have emails with those attached files. So I hope you enjoyed meeting Carla today. And thank you, Carla, for joining us. And we'll sign off and have a great day. Aren't people funny?